Hey, this is Ross Payton with Roleplay Public Radio, but I'm here on Legends of Tabletop, along with my co-host John.
Hey everybody, this is episode 92. Excuse me while I throw my cat because he's biting me. Um, well, I'm pleased and excited to have Ross on with us tonight. I've been a listener to the Role-Playing Public Radio podcast for damn near 10 years. Can you imagine it's been that long already, Ross?
Yeah, no, I was actually kind of having an existential crisis over that because it's our 10th year doing the podcast, and we're going to be doing it at the 50th Gen Con. We're going to be at the 50th Gen Con this year, so I'm like, okay, and we were just scheduling hotels and all that junk recently. So I'm like, oh my god, I've been doing this for 10 years. Jesus, yeah, that's basically wow. Yeah, so I'm yeah, I don't know what to say. It's how did time get by me? How did I get to this state? Anyways, so yeah, happy to be here.
I was doing all my research for tonight, and I'm like, oh my god, has it really been that long? Because I picked you guys up in like about 2008, 2009, and I guess you guys got started about 2007. What was the genesis behind it?
It actually was Gen Con. I mean, before that, we actually RPPR proto RPPR had actually existed like up to 2 years before 2005, because me and my friends, we got together and we made radio play versions of the AB3 rants that were on RPG.net, and these were little stories that were told in script form, and they're on the earliest things on RPPR, and they're funny little stories about this guy's experiences gaming, you know, playing riffs at a Denny's and playing Call of Cthulhu with really creepy people. These were sporadic things, and this was even before podcasting was really a thing. Podcasting as a term, it only existed as proof of concept really in 2005. But 2000, so we did that on and off between 2005 and 2007. But 2007, we went to Gen Con. Tom and I went to Gen Con for the first time. And I was just, oh my God, this is amazing. And we're like, hey, we should do an episode to talk about this. We should do a podcast to talk about this. Because by 2007, there was already Fear the Boot and a couple other RPG podcasts out there. And so we kind of, you know, I got some mics and figured out how to do it. And we kind of went from there. And so we just kept doing it because, you know, people said they liked our stuff and there weren't, and yeah, so I just kept it up throughout grad school and kind of went from there. And like the actual plays were recorded because I always wanted to record our games to commemorate them, because ever since the first time I ran a Master of Nyarlathotep, I remember one scene in particular where Tom, he got into a panic where he confronted a cultist in London during the day in this tea shop. And Tom realized he was a cultist and just beat him to death with a cane. But this is a tea shop that was open for business. And he, you know, another customer walked in. I'm just like, Tom, what are you going to do? And he panicked and started killing civilians. And I love that moment so much. I was like, oh, I wish I could record this. I wish this was saved somehow. And then I'd seen other actual play sort of forum through rpgmp3.com. I'm like, hey, I could do that. And we kind of I started figuring out how to do that. And, you know, after trial and error, you know, I got the Zoom H1 and kind of went from there. So that's kind of how the main podcast and the actual plays got started. So yeah.
Cool. I think I just remember hearing you guys tell this story. I'm woefully behind on my podcasting, but I think in one of the regular episodes, you guys were telling that story, you know, within the last few months anyway, because it sounds very familiar.
I know I've told the story several times, but yeah, it's yeah, I keep telling that story because it's so burned in my memory, because it was just like, everyone was on the edge of their seat. At first, everyone was yelling, you know, backseat playing for Tom. Like, Tom, do this. No, do this. Do this. I was like, Cameron, shut up. Tom, what are you doing? And I could just see the panic in his eyes. And I'll never forget that. And so I realized I had to record these games. And it kind of went on and people really had a good reaction. Also in 2008, 4th Ed D&D came out. And so I wanted to like cash in on that by doing one of the first campaigns for 4th Ed D&D, and that became the New World campaign, which is to this still is our longest running campaign. 46 episodes, and it was really great, and so people really enjoyed it, and we kind of went from there. But yeah, that once we started doing the campaign, once people are like, oh my god, this is the only fourth ed podcast I could find. That again, 2008. There are many more since then. So yeah, so those are kind of the origin stories for it. It just started happening, and we kind of went on from there. Anyways, yeah.
Yeah, I know, my co-host who just logged in, I see him in Google Docs now, so I'm assuming he's going to jump in here in a minute. They used to videotape their sessions, so he's got boxes of VHS tapes of old
games and stuff. VHS tapes. Yeah. Wow, awesome. That actually is pretty cool that you could, yeah, especially a retro thing like that, because then you could commemorate, because you like that would be interesting just as an artifact of the times as well. So. But anyway, yeah, enough about that. Let's talk about me.
Yeah. Hey, Vince, what's going on?
Hey, what's up? How's everybody?
Doing good, doing well.
Cool.
I just told the story of you guys videotaping your old D&D sessions.
Oh yeah. Still have to transfer them from VHS to some digital format.
Yeah, there's a VHS era gaming. That's rare. That would be a treat to see. So anyway,
I'll make sure I get a few up before for Necronomicon. Get them live.
There you go.
Were they D&D, or did you actually play these old Call of Cthulhu games?
Oh no, this is first and second edition Dungeons and Dragons from early 1990s.
Oh, okay, yeah, when the era of Thaco.
Yeah. I finally remember Thaco.
Yeah, Thaco is wacko.
It can be.
It can. Yeah, no, I was in the very tail end of that era, and it was still pretty. Wow, third ed was an improvement, as much as third ed is kind of ooh.
Lots of fiddly bits there.
Yeah, third ed's kind of showing its age now too. But anyway, so yeah.
So do you have like a regular full-time gig that you're doing, or you're all in between freelancing and podcasting and all the other stuff?
Yeah, I have a variety of sort of jobs. Yeah, freelance writing for RPGs, obviously with the Patreon. RPPR is a lot of work, and freelance graphic design. So, yeah, there's a lot of jobs I don't really talk about. Freelance jobs that I talk about, like scanning old books and converting them to ebooks and really exciting things like that. But more fortunately in the last few years, thanks to the Patreon and crowdfunding and base raiders, I've been able to devote more and more time to game design and podcasting because of I'm earning enough to live with it now. So yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
All aspire to such lofty heights.
Well, there's the great thing about being self-employed is you can set your own hours. The bad part is, lack of security, the lack of, a lot. Let's focus on the good side.
All right. Yeah. You guys run like tons and tons of games. How many games you guys normally play in a week?
Anywhere between 1 and 3 usually. Now RPPR is really lucky that RPPR is not a one-man show. It's always been about the fact that I've had a really great group of friends who have joined in to record podcasts. Obviously Tom, the original co-host, and then Caleb and Aaron and Bill, and just on and on and on. And so I run usually one game a week, or Caleb runs one game a week. And then Bill, for the last year, Bill's been running the game as well. And occasionally we do a one shot on Saturday. So yeah, 1 to 3 games a week. Might be, that's the average. Usually at least one game a week, unless there is a holiday or something and people schedule. There are weeks that we don't play at all because of scheduling reasons. Sure. A lot of the players are involved in education and social work, and then also holidays. So, but yeah, the average is 1 to 3 games a week. This week it's been Base Raiders, and Friday I'll be playing 13th Age. Bill's running 13th Age, and then Saturday perhaps GenLab Alpha, a companion game to Mutant Year Zero, put out by Mophidius Entertainment, which is a Swedish role-playing game translated into English, post-apocalyptic. Kind of GenLab Alpha is kind of Island of Dr. Moreau, but plus Fallout. So
cool.
It's been pretty fun. But that depends on whether Tom can recover from his hacking cough. A lot of us have had health issues recently for weird reasons. But yeah, so yeah, 1 to 3 games.
Cool. So do you guys run a lot of pre-generated scenarios, or do you do a lot of sandbox type stuff? And if more sandboxy type stuff, how hard is it to come up with so many different, adventure seeds, for all these different games that you're playing?
We do a lot of, it depends. One shots we do tend to be more like the pickup games. Like if somebody's schedules changes and one person can't make it, but enough other players, and say, okay, we won't do our usual campaign. We'll just do a one shot. And those you almost always have we make characters, and that's why I prefer systems with easy character generation systems. Like lately, I've run a lot of Delta Green. Because Delta Green has a lot of great pre-gens you can just print out and run with. And even if you don't want to use that, it's easy to make a character. If you know the system, you can do it in like 15 minutes. So that's, but for campaigns, it kind of varies a little bit by genre, obviously when I run like horror investigations, like when I did Night's Black Agents, it was very much like build the conspiracy, the conspiramid, as they say. And let the players, present plot hooks and let the players choose which ones they want to go to. But you have to have, there's a lot of planning in advance because you have to sort of figure out how how the entire mystery works out before you can present any of it.
Right.
But with Base Raiders, I kind of do the more sandbox thing where like, all right, what do you guys want to tackle? What kind of issues you want to tackle? And then I kind of sketch out some ideas and then kind of react to see how the players do. I improvise a lot in my games. I don't know if that's immediately apparent in my APs, but I tend to make up stuff on the fly and see how players react to it. A lot of my interest in gaming is seeing what kind of choices players make when given certain, choices or, decisions. Do you do this or do you do this? Or how do you react to this? How will you overcome this? And so I leave some ideas sort of blank, and I just kind of let myself go. It's like, oh, this is a good idea. I'll throw that in immediately. So sandboxes, yeah, it's more of thinking of the ecology of the setting. If that makes sense. Like if this is sort of what all the major elements are, and they would react to this. If the players do this, then these people will react like this, and these will react like this, and then just kind of keep it all straight in your head. So,
right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
I was just saying, it's interesting you bring that up because one of my questions is one of the hallmarks of a Ross Payton game is the moral choices that PCs have to make during those games, whether it's Eclipse Phase or Call of Cthulhu or whatever. Yeah. Was that when did that aesthetic come about? Like, has that always been sort of a guiding principle in your design or your storytelling, or is that something that's sort of developed, as you've gained longer and longer?
I think I've always been interested in it because role-playing games, in terms of they're obviously about choices, about decision making, about like how and that's what stories are about, like how people react to certain elements, how people make decisions, people make choices. And in terms of choices, you either have tactical ones or procedural ones, really, like how do you solve a problem on a technical level, but then there are moral choices, like what are your values? What are you willing to defend your values with? And I think part of it is also because I've also been really interested in Delta Green for as long as I can remember. And that's sort of the core ethos of Delta Green, which is, what are you willing to sacrifice to protect humanity, even though it's, that humanity's doomed, but how long are you going to prolong delay the inevitable? And I found that very, very interesting, very meaningful. I just, in terms of fiction, I'm always interested in, like one of my favorite comic books is Planetary, which is a deconstruction of superhero genre tropes. And it's about how people would react if they had superpowers in a more, realistic way without being sort of ridiculous in a sort of Frank Miller grimdark manner. There are people who just profiteer from it, and then there are people who believe that the science and power should be shared, and it's a struggle between those two beliefs. And I found, I just find it more interesting. I find it more like everything else seems kind of trivial if compared to moral dilemmas. I mean, like if you want drama, you kind of have to present that to a certain degree. So yeah, that for me, it's been making interesting stories and trying to get players to engage with it. Because the only other ways to prevent kind of difficulty in a role-playing game is either to make absurdly detailed and complex tactical challenges, and my players don't really like done tactical super in-depth combat. If they want to play XCOM, they'll play XCOM, right. not my board game, or not my RPG. And so yeah, but XCOM can't do moral dilemmas, at least not in an interesting way.
Sure. So. Well, speaking of moral dilemma, do you want to talk a little bit about the Aaron factor?
And that's another reason why I like running games so much and playing with Aaron, is because I genuinely don't know how he will react to certain things. Like, and there's always, for those who aren't familiar, the Aaron factor is basically, Aaron in our group has a tendency to make choices that you would never, like, unless you knew him well, you would never expect. And he kind of, it's interesting to see at what point he has certain, I mean, obviously he has, every player has preferences. Let begin with that. Everyone, likes playing certain types of characters, or they like doing certain play styles. Tom likes playing the heavy. He likes playing the big, tough badass. Caleb often chooses, either chooses depressive characters, who have, or rather melancholy. And Aaron chooses characters that are very technically adept and are often very, very like paladin-esque, very lawful good kind of characters. But he will, once he gets his mind to make a decision, he will just do it, and nothing will dissuade him. If that's in the most infamous examples, of course, is Shanghai, where the premise of the game was set in the 19th century and the players were Shanghai. They were kidnapped and put on board a boat. And he was told this before the game started, but he spent the first hour of real time of the game basically saying, I'm not going to work. Well, they're not going to feed you. I don't want to starve to death, but I'm not going to accept the premise of the game. So I'm going to do this and this and this. And it ended him trying to kill a shark with a knife. And I just never would have expected that. But it's, I can't really explain the Aaron factor. I think only Aaron can explain the Aaron factor. He just, once he makes his mind up, he is just like, that's it. That's going to be it. And I never know exactly when he's going to twinge on, like, that's my choice. I'm going to run off into the dark unarmed and try and charge a sniper, or I'm going to do this, or I'm going to do that. I'm like, all right. That's fine. But yeah, so I can't explain it beyond that. It's just him. It's just his unique nature.
Well, it certainly gives the podcast a very unique flair when he's in a game, because you never know when that moment's going to hit. Like I just finished listening to Contingency the other day, and he was like, fuck it, I'm out. I go home and I work on my marriage. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
What's happening?
I never know exactly when it's going to trigger, and I'm just like, okay, that's fine. So, but he's been, it's podcasting gold as far as I'm concerned. I'm happy with it. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. And the flip side of Aaron would be Caleb then. Just like super into it. The thing with Caleb is, though, if he gets bored, he's like, all right, I shoot something. I do this thing. We got to get moving. Come on, let's do something.
That is true. Caleb does. It is kind of difficult at times because he often will try and do something without telling me what he's planning to do. He just, and occasionally Caleb will make assumptions about the game that are not true. So I'm not like, oh, well, if I do this, then this will happen. It's like, well, no, I said this is going to happen. That you made an incorrect assumption. So sometimes it's challenging, but he's always engaged with the game, and he also plays kind of melancholy characters. So it's very fun to play with him, and but he always kind of gives games a certain like. He also doesn't like certain games that are like more relaxing or sort of like, hey, let's like I don't know if I could play Rocky and Bullwinkle with him, for example, but
Right.
He or Atomic Robo, because those are pretty optimistic games. But he's very much a planner. He's very much a meticulous kind of strategic thinker. Yeah, it's been fascinating playing with him as well. So yeah,
and he's a brand new player. Like his introduction to role playing was with you guys as a group, right? So how satisfying is that to have someone come in with no idea and then come in and be so super engaged?
Yeah, it wasn't like super. I mean, it was 2011. Oh my god, when we did The Haunting, and it was The Haunting was kind of like a nightmare because it was Aaron's first game running as GM, and we were all just like being assholes to him, or sorry, jerks to him. And Caleb did not know us very well from that, and he was just thrown into this pit, and he kept with us. He tried more games with us afterwards, and it worked out better for him. But yeah, it's been very, very satisfying to see him embrace the game and embrace the hobby and like start writing for it and like create, like Red Markets, which is an amazing game. And yeah, no, I'm it's been very, very gratifying to have someone like grow out of that. And I've always tried to help anyone on the cast if they wanted to do a project or do something. And Caleb's the first one to like super embrace that. And so, yeah, that's been great.
It's trying to get people to do anything. It's like herding cats. So
yeah, no
feel
joke.
your pain.
No joke. It's not just Caleb. Like Bill's doing really well as a GM, in Armitage Files, and so is Dan. Dan's had more challenges too for his Dresden Files campaign because he's had more players and more breaks between games, and he's been managing more plot lines. But yeah, so it would be, and not everyone like Caleb is a natural writer anyway. He's just always wanted to write, so it was very easy to prod him into writing stuff. So.
And you guys sort of chronicled his experience through Red Markets with Game Design Workshop, another not a separate podcast, but another aspect of the regular podcast, kind of going through his whole epic sequence in design all the way up through, and then after the hugely successful Kickstarter.
Yeah. That was his idea, by the way, to do Game Designers Workshop, and I'm glad he did. But yeah, that was his idea, and it's learning, making mistakes in real time, I think is its tagline. So we can, other people can learn from our mistakes in game design. So that's been really good. I've always wondered about the RPPR broadcast because I kind of just throw everything vaguely podcasty onto it, so there's interviews, panels, and Game Designers Workshop, then normal episodes, and I always wonder if that's a good mix or should I split the feed up so I have separate feeds for separate categories, or I don't know. But I'm glad Caleb got me to start recording those Game Designer Workshops because those have been fun and very informative.
Very interesting, very informative. I mean, I'm not going to design a role-playing game myself, but to kind of hear you guys go through the process and the considerations and some of the stuff with Kickstarter and things like that, it's a very informative and interesting process to kind of be a part of over here.
Yeah.
Hear you guys go through it.
There's a lot of game design is really like undocumented. I mean, like, yeah, every movie, even the terrible like direct-to-video B movies that get like director's commentary and behind the scenes featurettes and like articles written about them, and there's not nearly as much documentation of like the game design process. And so a lot of these games are made by one person or a few people working away in anonymity basically, and nobody knows why they make the decisions they make for their games. And I'm kind of glad to document at least the process of one game, or a couple of games that we make, so people can get a better idea of what it's like. Guess what? It's a lot of work and a lot of frustration. And
for sure.
And anxiety. So be a game designer.
It's like a public service you're doing.
Mothers, don't let your kids grow up to be game designers.
Here's what not to do.
Yeah, that's literally the premise of game design.
Well, that's pretty cool that you're doing that. Well, advice you would give first-time GMs, people coming to the game master table?
For first-time GMs, try and play a game first, obviously, to get a sense of what it's like. But that's not necessary. The first thing I would do is try and pick the game that's going to work best for your group, and that's not D&D. I'll just say it. I don't think any edition of D&D is blasphemy. No, I don't. I mean, first through fifth, I don't think any edition of D&D is best as a starting RPG, because they're complex games. I mean, they're the size of college textbooks. Like they're pretty big. Maybe. So I would look. I mean, and there's a lot of really good games now that have really streamlined systems, good writing, and are working. So I would look it through a lot of games, read a couple of RPGs before you run anything, if you can, or at least read the game that you are running, even if it is D&D. I know I said don't do D&D, but a lot of people are just going to get D&D anyway. So read the entire book first. Try to read the entire book first, and so because you're basically going to have to teach the rules to the players. So it's about teaching players. So you have to know the rules in order to teach each other people. So, like, how does initiative work? How does combat work? Don't stop the game to learn the rules, Now it's obviously if you don't have to memorize them perfectly, it's okay to look up stuff, but try to have some basic idea of how the rules work. So after you learn the rules of whatever game you're choosing, try to talk to your players before the game and find out what they want to do in the game. That's like, do they want to fight monsters? Do they want to have a great story? Do they want to resolve? Do they have a really cool idea for a character that they want to resolve? Mike, is it, a Frank Miller? My parents were killed by ninjas and I'm an orphan and I am, black, I am Blood Trenchcoat, the angry McAngster, last of the Angst clan, or whatever. And, find out what they want to do, whatever it is, and try and include all of that. Some players just kind of want to hang out. Some players want to kill shit. Some players want to tell stories, and some players want to win. They think it's a competitive game. So have some sort of talk before your players before the game. And then when you're running the game, listen to the players and figure out what they want and make the game a conversation. Like it's about collaboration. You're not telling your story to them. You're making a story with the players. So you get to tell some parts, but the players get input as well. So if the players, all right, you're at an inn, the old man gives you a treasure map and be like, well, we burn the map and we go this way. Oh, well, all right. Well, guess what? There's a dungeon along the way. No, that's clearly the dungeon the treasure map was going to go to. Okay, fine. There's what do you want to do? Well, we heard that there was a tournament and we want to go fight in it. Okay. All right, that's fine. And then those orcs that you started out for the dungeon can turn out to be martial artists, warriors or whatever, for the tournament. And so it's a conversation. Of course, obviously talk to the players so you don't get totally blindsided all the time, but let them contribute and then let the dice have a say let roll out in the opens, and if the players roll well, then they do well. If they take a lot of risks and they roll poorly, well, then have that be borne out. It's a three-way conversation between the players, the dice, and the GM. And I totally stole that from Greg Stolze. But Greg Stolze used the game I ran for him as an example of that. So I get to use that. I can claim that quote. That's how that works. It was the Well for Sacrifice. This is another Aaron game, by the way, where he
Makes
killed
sense.
2 player characters the exact same way. I'm going to crawl in this tunnel and go in the other cave. Well, all right, roll. He's dead. All right, Tom's sick. You can take over his character. All right, I'm going to go in that hole this time with a Tommy gun. And I'll be fine. Like, all right, roll. Guess what? The giant vampire baits killed your character again. So he just thought, if I'd rolled better. So, anyways, I hope that answers the question.
Yeah.
But
no, I was going to say, so in running your own podcast, how has that changed the way that you approach GMing and or playing, or has it at all?
We recently did an episode talking about how recording a podcast has changed how we GM. Let me see, pull up the episode number. But kind of in general, let's see here, Murphy's campaign concept. That's not it. For me, I'm so used to it now that I literally don't even think about it.
Sure.
It's just what it is. Now for other players, playing for an audience, episode 136. Now I have noticed a lot of other players, other members of the RPPR cast have told me how they've kind of there was a bunch of anxiety about recording it, and they kind of got used to it over time. Now we've been really lucky that we have a great audience that is very, nice. We haven't had much, there have been sort of spats or whatever, or critical comments and critiques, which is fine, of course, but we haven't had any major problems with trolls or any people like that. So it's been really positive on our end. For recording a game for posterity, obviously get everyone's permission first. If they're on the fence to say we can record it, if you don't want us to play it or post it later on, you can just let me know. And obviously stick to your word on that. I have had games that I've recorded that I can't post because one player said, no, I don't want you to post that. I'm like, all right, that's fine. So that has happened in the past. But in terms of me and my GMing style, I do admit there have been times where I have run games because I think it'll get me better search engine results. That's why I did a Five Nights at Freddy's game, for example. The Slenderman games I just did because I wanted to do Slenderman games because that was a thing back, 6 years ago. But yeah, I haven't. I'm so used to it now. It's just how I GM, even if I'm not. I don't think I've GM'd a game without recording it.
Okay.
Ever? I know. I mean, not for years and years. There's a lot of games that I record that I never post because they're at Gen Con and they're super noisy, but I record them anyway because better.
You never know.
Yeah, you never know. Exactly. So yeah. I honestly don't know how I would be GMing differently if I didn't record it. Probably very differently. I think it's made me a lot more critical about my own GMing style. It's probably improved my GMing quite a bit because I'm now much more self-aware of my habits and my reflexes and my instincts as a GM. So I'm like, oh, I need to change things up, or I need to do things differently, or that kind of thing. So it's made me more self-aware as a GM. So, yeah.
Okay. I find that too as we play games to try to, keep in mind that people are listening. So to be, more descriptive and kind of, be more immersive in, actions that characters are taking and things like that to, help to paint that word picture.
I have started. I have noticed that I have not done as many games with tactical combat and grids as probably I did before. I mean, part of that was because I've moved away from D20 games. in general. I mean, I'm playing 13th Age, so I haven't totally moved away from them. But I certainly, when I do combat, I'd make it very, very loose and open and kind of fluid, as opposed to like, you are here, you can move this many squares or this many inches or whatever. So I think, that has helped. I mean, there's just so many things to keep track of as a team. I so focus on the plot and like how trying to keep up the sort of internal logic of the game in my head that I often forget stuff like after a game. Like, oh, I should have done this. I should have mentioned this. I should have. I'm very, very critical at times about that. So, yeah.
Well, I think Caleb picks you up on that a little bit, because you'll call for a roll and it'll be like, wait, what? Why am I rolling this when I just said I was doing XYZ?
Yeah. There is that too. And Caleb also, as a GM, I know, he preps a lot more than I do a lot of times. I do not flow chart as much as he does. That is more of a Caleb thing. So yeah, it does kind of vary based on the type of game. So yeah, that's true.
All right. So with all the games that you're recording and some obviously not releasing, how big is the backlog now? I know at one point, you guys would joke around that you could be dead for, 10 years and the podcast would still be going.
I honestly don't know. I believe the record between recording and posting a game is 2 years. Because that's the Horrible Lonely House. This was a Call of Cthulhu one shot. I know I recorded in 2009. I posted in 2011. The campaigns are probably 6 months to a year back up. Wow. Dresden, probably 6 months to a year for most things. The Delta Green one shots are being posted a lot more. They're not nearly as backlogged because I've been wanting to get all the published DG scenarios out. All the new ones, like Star Chamber, which is coming up, and Observer Effect and Last Things Last, which have all been recent. But for the most, so sometimes I'll bump things out, but a lot of times I will just we record so many games, I just go through the recorded files that happens. Like I listen, it's like, oh yeah, we did this 6 months ago. I'll post that. So the campaigns Base Raiders is about 6 or 7 months back. We started it last year, and we just now posted the first episode of it. So it was summer 2016, I believe. So yeah, I could look it up. Let me see exactly when Base Raiders Gate 9 was recorded. So yeah, anyways, that'll take a second to figure out. But so yeah, there's quite a backlog. And there's a lot of games that I have that I have not been posted. That's why we do like the B-sides and stuff like that. Because sometimes we do one shots and they're like, it's kind of weird that the podcast has become like the central social thing for my group of friends to do. And I'm extremely lucky that we have that. But right. It's just what we do.
Well, Jesse from the Dragon Fister, same thing. I mean, they're all friends. They all live, probably within a half an hour of each other. And, he said, for the most part, if it wasn't for the fact that we were sitting at the table rolling dice, we probably wouldn't hang out otherwise because everybody's busy with stuff.
Yeah, that's true. And, it's become a very fun thing for my friends. It's not just like they do it because they genuinely enjoy it, not because it's help Ross do his podcast thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just looked it up. We recorded episode 1 of Base Raiders Gate 9 on June 13th, 2016. So quite so between that and February, so 8 months difference. Wow. 7.5 months. Yeah, slight backlog.
So I think I have 2 games in the backlog right now.
Yeah, I do that. Yeah, in terms of number of games, I have no idea. I buy memory cards in bulk now.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. So how hard is it to get games scheduled? And you guys are lucky because you have a pretty large group and you have, it's, I don't want to say interchangeable, like it doesn't matter, but you have a lot of players that come and go, and certain players are playing certain campaigns. How hard is it to get people together? I mean, you guys play, 1 or 3 games a week? Is it like,
Mhm.
oh, like can't do Tuesday, but I can do Friday, and this person can't do Friday, and it turns into like a whole
Yeah.
thing.
Well, usually what happens is because we're so many of our players are involved in academics, education, we're sort of tied to the school year. And so at the beginning of a semester, everyone figures out what their work schedule will be like, and work and or school schedule. And so once we figure out the schedule, we kind of set a weekly thing. We'll play Tuesdays at 6:00, or Tuesdays at 6:00 for this game, and Friday 7:00 for this game, and then maybe Saturdays we can do something if people are available for that. And then basically the entire semester, everyone just follows that. And then we try and use social media to like, oh no, I can't make it this week. Okay, we'll do this as another thing, as a makeup game. So, but then once the semester ends and school, every sort of change, there's always a couple weeks of like, what's going on this week? I don't know what's going on. There have been a lot of screw ups. There have been a lot of like miscommunications and stuff like that, where people don't catch certain messages and stuff like that, and so we've had no show games, or too many people show up for a game, or especially when we get into one shots, not campaigns. But mostly we set a weekly schedule and stick to it, and that's by and large been pretty successful. It obviously to the point where we can have long campaigns and stuff like that. So yeah,
that's good.
Yeah.
How much time do you spend in editing all the podcasts and stuff?
Not much, to be honest. I kind of like RPPR. My sort of philosophy for podcasting has been very much making it as sustainable as possible. By that I mean, not like I started out doing those radio play things, which are like 10 to 15 minutes long, and they had sound effects and music and 6 voice actors, and those would take like 6 hours to edit, and that would get like, you would get like 1 or 2 comments. You'd be like, oh, that's nice, that's funny. Well, and I'm like, well, fuck, that's great. Well, that was worth all that effort. And so I set up RPPR to be not edit proof, but edit as a minimalist philosophy. So like, actually that new podcast I'm doing with Caleb and Spencer, the Mix 6 actually takes a lot more editing because there's a lot more music cues in it. So RPPR as an episode will take like maybe an hour to edit. And then maybe another 30 minutes to an hour to edit the show notes together. And the APs I record as a WAV file on the Zoom H2N, and then I use an app called Levelator, which balances the levels out. And usually that's all I need to do. I'm really lucky that I live in a quiet neighborhood, so I don't have to worry too much about background noise. And then I don't edit the APs. Like I hardly ever edit APs. Because if there's going to be a big distraction or people are going to be, I just stop the recording and start it again. If there's going to be some sort of big noise or like, oh, the pizza guy's here or whatever, I just stop the recording. And I've gotten at my GMing style, I just sit down and I run the game for 2 to 4 hours straight. And, that's kind of it. Like I try to set it up so I don't have to do too much editing, because if I get too much editing, if I have to do too much editing, I get burned out. Like this episode of RPPR I recorded recently is going to be more editing than I've done in a while, because Tom had a hacking cough and I had a cough.
Yeah.
So I had to make little notes like edit this cough out, this time code and this time code and this time. And so that's going to be kind of annoying because I have to do a lot more work than I'm used to doing. Mm-hmm. So that's my biggest advice for podcasters. Set up your podcast so you don't have to do a lot of work to get it online. Like be as lazy as possible while maintaining some kind of quality. Like if you do more work than you're used to doing, you're just going to burn out on it and you're just going to give up. But like RPPR isn't such a huge amount of work that I'm like, I dread it. I just like, I just get it out the door. And that's fine. So, and obviously it could be better on a technical point of view if I took all the time to edit out the uhs and the ums and the things like that and all the other little verbal tics that we have. But that kind of work again just would take so long. I wouldn't be able to have this level of output, and obviously the fan base is fine with the way I'm doing it because people are still listening to it and donating to the Patreon. So I'm like, all right, yeah,
right. Yeah, no, I joke sometimes when we're in midst of an interview or something like that. I'll be like, oh, I'll edit that, and I'm like, no, I'm just gonna go the Ross route. We'll just leave it.
Yeah, sometimes I have edited interviews, especially online interviews, because of technical reasons. If there's a what do you call it? The recording breaks up, especially on Skype or something like that. I'll try and edit those out, but that's an exception. That's not what I want to do. Because effort.
Well, it's like a college class. For every hour of recording, you're like an hour and a half in editing, more or less.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And so, if you're doing a podcast, you have to it's not just recording, it's editing and writing show notes, because you have to have show notes. I don't know, like podcast, we talk about this today, and that's it. Like, I don't want to listen to a podcast where I don't know what it's going to be about. Like, don't. Yeah. So anyway.
Yeah, when I was still on Nerdbound, one of the things. So I guess I should tell this story. As OG podcaster that you are, I was on Nerdbound with Neil a number of years ago now, and out of the blue, I'd sent you an email and be like, "Hey, we want to try to, get more visibility, and kind of, what can we do to like make the podcast better? Because obviously, yours is better. I mean, you're the guy." And like, out of the blue, sent you an email, and you were like, sure, let's, we'll jump on Skype. And I think, you spent like maybe 45 minutes with me or something, just kind of picking things apart and going through stuff. And, as someone who was a fan of the show and, trying to help with another podcast and stuff, it was really cool experience for me to, have that experience with you, to have you be so supportive.
Yeah. No, I mean, I've never it's a podcast. I'm not. It's like, hey, we're all doing. I'm the more podcasts, the merrier. I have heard of other content creators being kind of elitist about that kind of stuff, and I'm just like, whatever. I'm just so interested in this stuff. I like helping other people do it. So, So yeah, no, I just like I'm just like doing it. So I'm glad I could help. I'm glad you're still podcasting. So
yeah, well, we're relatively new still, but we're hopefully in for the long haul. We enjoy doing it, and it's cool because we get to hang out and talk with you tonight, and talk to Adam Scott Clancy or Oscar Rios or whatever. Be like, hey, let's hang out and chat about whatever things you have going on. It's just a really cool experience to be a part of the community in that way. So it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, no, what I've been really surprised is how many RPG designers are actually really good conversationalists. Because I mean, Adam Scott Clancy is would be a great college historian professor. Like, he would be the one everyone would have to take everyone would have to take his class, because he would tell the best stories about how World War One got started or whatever, how Zeppelins worked during the war. I mean,
he's a machine.
Yeah, no, exactly. So it's great to be able to find out these, because our tabletop RPGs are still, even though the tabletop market itself is growing quite a bit in the last couple of years, it's very much people who are into it because it's a labor of love. They love what they're doing. They're genuinely wanting to create these kind of games to allow people to tell interesting stories, and it's sort of a weird kind of a Venn diagram of overeducated, underambitious, in the conventional sense of the word. And so yeah, you grit diamonds in the rough. I don't know. I've always been interested and fascinated by this stuff. So yeah,
sure. Let's see here. So you're a published author, obviously game designer, Ennie Award winning for the podcast, Benjamin Franklin Award, I think, for Zombies of the World.
Yeah, the international, the IBPA awards. I have it on my site. Yeah, I have won some awards. I'm an award winning author. So. Best humor book in the 2012 IBPA Benjamin Franklin Awards.
That was awesome.
Yeah, no, it was fun. So yeah, I get to write. I'm trying to write more. I just sent Caleb 20,000 word Independent Book Publishers Association. I sent Caleb 20,000 words for a Red Market supplement. That's good. It was originally going to be in the Red Market's main book, but that's going to be put off into its own separate book. And I'm working on another book in the near future for Upwind, a campaign for Upwind. The Three Beasts campaign will be a separate book. And then I'm working on an Eclipse Phase project that I can't say anything else about. But yeah, something Eclipse Phase is in the pipeline.
Very cool. Yeah. The Red Market's probably better as a separate, because Laura would just cut that right out right now. I see all the tweets coming through. Oh, I edited out this many words and this many words.
I don't have Caleb's problem when writing. I look at Caleb overwrites. I look at the deadline and I try and meet it just exactly. Again, it's the UGG effort philosophy. Like, just look at where, all right, done. I'm out. I just walk away. Like I try and write so that I can meet the deadline exactly at that. Like Caleb tends to, I guess that's kind of our GMing style too. Caleb will have flow charts and pages of documentation. I'm like 2 pages handwritten of notes. I'm like, yeah, that's fine. It's good enough. So yeah, it's differing styles.
Yeah. Base Raiders was your first Kickstarter, right?
No, it actually was not.
Okay.
I've done actually crowdfunding since crowdfunding really even came around. I was actually I used fundable.org, which was the sort of a proto version of Kickstarter for ransom model projects. The ransom model, which was developed by Greg Stolze, is the idea is like, I'm holding this creative project for ransom. If I raise enough money, then I'll release it and everyone can enjoy it for free. And so I did a fundable, and then I raised, then I did a couple Kickstarters before Base Raiders for New World fantasy campaign source books. There was the Goblin Hulk, the battle, the Ruins of Lemuria. And these were like kind of with 4E stats, but open-ended so that anyone could run any kind of fantasy campaign, with sort of like taking that as so I did several source books that are free PDFs you can download. I also did Killsplosion, which was a PvP oriented role-playing game based on 1980s action films, and that was also a Kickstarter. Those were all like for hundreds or just a few $1,000s. Those were very small Kickstarters. But I mean, Kickstarter itself didn't really start until 2009, so I was really one of the first people to get on. I had to get an invitation to get to, to join Kickstarter back then, instead of just registering your own account. But Base Raiders, yeah, that was the first big Kickstarter I did. That's been the only big Kickstarter. Well, not super big, but like that's been my biggest Kickstarter to date. And that was for the first analyst. So that was the first major one. The other ones were just kind of like warm-ups. So
sure. How was that experience using Kickstarter? Is that something you look forward to using again in the future? I know you did the second Base Raider supplement was also a Kickstarter as well, right?
The first real one, which was Boiling Point, which was a adventure for Base Raiders. I'll definitely use Kickstarter again in the future. I have ideas for card games there's several ideas for card games that I want to develop. And whenever I perfect one, I think one is good enough to try out, I'll put it on Kickstarter, because I do want to do a card game next. My experience with Base Raiders was very positive. Obviously, I could have done more to promote it, but I think it did pretty well for the time. I mean, the thing is, the tabletop market has kind of exploded, and Kickstarter itself is sort of an evolving field. Things keep changing and improving over time. How Kickstarter, the sort of minutia of how to market a Kickstarter, how to structure your Kickstarter keeps changing. There are Kickstarters now that don't even use videos, especially in tabletop projects, and they do well. And then there are other ones that have really terrible videos, and there's ones that do this, and they still do well, So it's kind of fascinating to study that. So If you're wanting to do a Kickstarter, it's just do a lot of work researching other Kickstarters and see what they're doing, and kind of figure out what your unique hook for your game is. You know, like what is your structure? You know, why are you doing? What makes your game stand alone? And like what really sells games on Kickstarter is a unique hook. Don't. And the thing is, you're making a specific game. You don't like. I would say the best point is don't be a D&D heartbreaker. Don't be a heartbreaker, which is that's kind of a specific term for like the person who's like, oh, I'm gonna do D&D, but it's gonna have cat ladies in it, or it's gonna have better rules for combat, or it's gonna have a mana point system instead of this. You know, like they do D&D, but like, or they're like, I'm gonna do a universal role-playing game that anyone can use and master, but it's gonna be incredibly tactically complex. It's gonna be the best game. No one will need any game other than my game. You know, like that doesn't do as well as like it's a game you're inside the belly of a giant continent-sized monster, and you have to survive inside this creature. It's called In the Belly of the Beast, you know, for example, which is a real Kickstarter that I backed. And like, I was like, that was a better hook than like my game is going to be the best game, and I've worked on this game for 20 years. I'm like, that's a warning sign, is what that is. If you've worked for your game 20 years, that's like, you should have made more game. Like professional game designers make, like Kenneth Haidt would have designed 50 games, as you know, in that amount of time. Like, and each one would have been better than the last. Like game designers do not just work on one thing and then like, that's it, I'm done, I'm perfect. You know, like you have to learn from your mistakes. You have to design multiple games. So there's kind of rambling, but yeah, Kickstarter is a rich tapestry in the land of many contrasts in summary. But anyways, yeah, I hope that helped a little bit.
Absolutely. What was the first RPG system you've ever played? Was it D&D or something else?
Nope. It was Palladium. It was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Other Strangeness.
Yep.
I made a mutant ninja raccoon who had a motorcycle. And I was like 10 or 12 years old, and I died in the first adventure because the pre-generated adventure in the fucking game. Oh, if you open this door, this train car door, there's this bundle of C4 and it'll explode and it'll kill your character. And I'm like, all right, I will open this door, this train car door. All right, you die. What? Yeah, that says so right here. I'm like, and for some reason, I decided to keep playing. I don't know why. But he was like, I'll fucking show them. I'm not going to lose. I'm going to keep. I can do better this time. So, yeah.
It was like the last episode, one of the one-shots for Delta Green Contingency with the C4 everywhere the players turned.
Yeah, that was fun. Yeah, those are always, traps are always fun to spring on players.
Do you have a favorite system? Would it be Call of Cthulhu? I mean, you guys run tons and tons of Call.
Well, base raiders clearly.
Man, base raider. Okay, all right, that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, it depends on the genre. I don't have a favorite universal system. It depends on what genre. For fantasy right now, like actually 13th Age, I think is the best D20 fantasy system I've ever seen. I don't think I would ever play Pathfinder 5th Ed now that I've played 13th Age. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I haven't kept up in Pathfinder in a while, so I can't rule them out, but 13th Age really impresses me. For horror, I'd actually play Delta Green. I haven't really given 7th Ed Call of Cthulhu a fair shake. I haven't played enough of that, so I need to give Call of Cthulhu 7th Ed, the new edition, a fair try. I mean, I've run a ton of 6th Ed Call of Cthulhu, 6th edition, the old version, but Delta Green I think is better than 6th Ed. Now whether or not it's better than 7th Ed, I don't know. I haven't played enough at 7th Ed to really give it a fair shake. In superheroes, I do like base raiders. I also really do like Wild Talents. That's always been fun. Yeah. What is this? Sci-fi. I am partial to Eclipse Phase, weirdly enough. And I really like how Eclipse Phase handles combat, and like cybernetics and other stuff. So yeah.
You guys have never played Rogue Trader or any of the Warhammer stuff. Just no interest in it, or
I am the only person who knows anything about 40K in our group. Like Tom, well, Sean does now. And the problem is I actually have several of the 40K RPGs because they're beautiful books. And I've wanted to run only war for some time because you could play that game without knowing anything about the setting. And that's thematically appropriate because you're just some poor schmuck who's given a laser gun and sent off to die for Emperor. The problem is, one, the system is very complex. And I just opened the book. I'm like, oh, God, I don't want to learn this. And so that's actually been the biggest hurdle is that it is a system I do want to run at some point, but I've just never had the mental energy to like sit down and read the book and learn the system well enough to run it. And no one else in the group has expressed an iota of interest in these games. I still want to do it because I have that idea of like playing like poor schmucks in 40K trying to survive as Imperial Guard, or playing Rogue Trader because that's evil capitalist Star Trek, or playing Chaos as where like the theme would be like you're Chaos cultist, but you worship Chaos because you're sane. The 40K, the Empire is the Imperium is ridiculous. And you have a better chance to start. But yeah, like you're the only sane people in the entire universe would be the joke. So they would all be kind of spit takes of the 40K setting because it's fucking ridiculous. I mean, I enjoy it, but like it's a parody, people. You shouldn't want to be. It's not something to emulate, not something to idolize. Like it's meant as a joke. Yeah. It's like Judge Dredd. Judge Dredd is not a good guy. I mean, it's not like you don't want there to be a real Judge Dredd because that would be terrible.
That would be a bad thing.
To be Judge's credit, he's uncorruptible. Like he does enforce the law fairly, and you can't bribe him. So he's got that going for him. But yeah, anyway,
right. The Rogue Trader is like cannibal Hitlers in space. That was the joke when we were on Nerdbound. That was the
and again, maybe if I could play it, or if someone else could run it, I'd love to play it. But nobody has any interest in the 40K setting aside from me and like Sean. So, and Sean is going to be running other games. He has a couple other games he wants to run for our group before we even get to that. So yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of games out there that I want to run and play, but
Sure. I think we should get you in on a game then, because we currently have a Rogue Trader campaign going. Just get you in for a session or two. Give you a feel for it.
Yeah, give me someone who's crazy and unstable, and I'll be happy to off myself for Chaos or the Empire, or whatever terrible government I'm working for, or force. Yeah, no, that would be great. That might help learn the system a little better because it does look interesting. Yeah.
I feel a one shot coming on now.
Yeah, sure, we can do that.
I'll talk to Neil about getting an Only War game going. The rules should be the same as all the other settings. So
yeah, I know it's percentile based, and there's like critical hits and all this stuff, and psychic powers, and chaos warp, and this and that, and blah blah blah. Yeah, it just looks kind of complex. But yeah,
it's not too bad. Have you ever considered any projects outside of gaming podcasting sphere? Well,
I am working on like a card game that I want to do. Or do you mean like outside of gaming, tabletop gaming in general?
Yeah, outside of general. Like, so when Vince and I started, we were like, oh, we're going to do this, and we're going to write books and this movie thing, and we've got ideas for all this stuff. And I was like, all right, let's back up. This is enough work to keep us busy for like forever. So that all kind of went by the wayside.
Yeah. No, yeah. I have previous background in movies, so I knew that was a terrible idea. I've worked on a few low budget movies. And I made a terrible low budget movie called Motorhome from Hell before RPPR. And so yeah, I always knew that. I've thought about video games, and I kind of briefly toyed with it by working on a video game that was being developed here in Springfield, but they ran out of money. They were also funded by Kickstarter. And from what I've heard, there's way more grind and longer hours than tabletop. I'm not opposed to it. I do want to write fiction. Like I really I have so much paying work that I have to write. Like, oh, I have to get paid to write all this stuff first, and then I can pursue my art. So there are ideas for novels and fiction there's fiction that I want to write. And I'm not sure. There have several ideas, and none of them are terribly fleshed out. So I don't want to explain what I have, but there's a lot of writing I would like to do that is not necessarily games. But right now, just the paying freelance work that I have and the podcast are enough. So maybe if my schedule clears up a little bit, I'll pursue that. But that really, movies, no, TV, no, and video games, yeah. If I got into video games, it would be like as a producer, someone with the money and writing the checks and telling other people to work long hours. That would be my interest in it. So so yeah.
Top down, that's a good way to do it.
Yeah.
So Kurt from the NFG cast jokingly wanted to know what's the fastest you've ever done the intro for the RPPR show.
Oh, I have not done the auctioneer thing. So I'm not sure. Probably there have been a couple episodes where I've done it pretty quick. Because Tom frequently would the joke is that Tom would like slander me for my for my announcer voice as soon as I give it. So probably I would say 5 seconds is the quickest I've done. Yeah, I'll just say 5 seconds is the quickest. But that's a total uneducated guess. There are actually some RPPR fans out there who have encyclopedic knowledge of the episodes and podcasts and could probably, it's like, oh, no, actually, it's 4.38 seconds in episode 93, or something like that. So, yeah.
All right, I've got one more official question here for you, then we'll roll into our final 5, which is 5 geeky, nerdy, binary type questions. It's either, this or that sort of thing. But what's the non-geekiest thing about you?
Non-geekiest thing about let's see here. I was suspended from junior high and not suspended. I was 3-day suspension for fighting in junior high and high school.
Nice.
There you go.
So yeah. That would be the accepted thing. I'm an international traveler, but I don't know that's still kind of geek. I don't know. Like, depends on how you define the least geeky thing. You have to define what is the geekiest thing. Like, it's a very interesting dichotomy. You have to establish. So I guess going back on that, yeah, it's fighting in high school. So
I would say podcasting may be probably one of the geekier things.
It is, but what is the opposite of podcasting? I'm not. Yeah, see that therein lies the question. It's not the geeky; it's the least geekiest thing. So, like,
right?
Yeah, it's a conundrum. How it's a it's a very deep existential question. Like, what is the anti-geek? So
it depends on what you're podcasting too, because there can be non-geek type podcasts.
That's true. Yeah.
The act of podcasting, I guess, intrinsically can be geeky, but you could be talking about, philosophy or whatever.
No, philosophy is super geeky.
I was going to say, yeah.
Yeah, no.
Well,
it could be something like
growing vegetables or
no, that's pretty geeky. I would something geeky. Like killing animals or no, hunting with muzzle loading rifles. But even that's kind of geeky because there's a technical thing
too. Yeah.
So yeah, maybe. But podcasting is inherently geeky because you're getting technical and talking about some sort of jargony thing. So like the least, like it would have to be anti-geeky. It would have to be maybe talk radio about not even car talk was pretty geeky.
Yeah.
So I don't know. See that there you go. There's the conundrum.
To be or not to be.
It's a riddle wrapped in a mystery, shrouded in an enigma.
I never thought about it that way, but I guess we've unlocked something here.
But I stand by my answer. I think that, off the top of my head, that's the least geeky thing.
Okay. All right. That's fair. All right. So we'll roll into our final 5 here. Star Trek or Star Wars?
Star Wars.
All right, without hesitation.
Yeah, not even close.
What did you think about the prequels, and what do you think about Rogue One and then Episode 7?
Prequels were terrible. Rogue One and Force Awakens were great.
Yeah, see, I went to go see Rogue One. I had high expectations, and it just kind of left me flat. And I don't know if I don't know what it is about it. And I probably should go see it again.
Okay.
But we left the theater, and I was like, really? Okay.
I liked that they, no, I liked it. I thought it's a good war movie, and I saw it twice in theaters, and I enjoyed it both times.
Okay. Fair enough. I guess this one's probably stupid, but tabletop or video games?
Tabletop, yeah, clearly. I literally make my living from it.
Yeah.
So.
Probably should have substituted something. DC or Marvel?
Marvel.
Okay. Batman or Marvel?
Depends on who's writing Batman. All right, yeah, like there's some terrible Batman. That's the thing about these people don't realize Batman isn't a character, he's a genre, he's a subgenre. Like if you're writing a Batman story, it's a particular type of superhero story. So it depends on who's writing Batman. I mean, to be fair, there's a lot of terrible Marvel too.
Right. Best Batman ever?
Yeah. The what?
Best Batman ever?
Oh man.
There's only one answer.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
The animated series.
Oh yeah, no, you're right. Yeah, no, that clearly is. Yeah, the Batman animated series. Yeah.
Although the Killing Joke was not fantastic.
The comic was really good, but yeah, I haven't seen the animated movie version of it, but I heard that was terrible.
It was not good.
Yeah.
For my 2 cents.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
Sci-fi or fantasy?
That's a good question. For me, it's probably. I mean, to be fair, honestly, horror. I've read a lot more horror than either of those. Probably in terms of books, number of books I've read, probably fantasy, but I don't know. Probably, yeah, both. I mean, for me, it's horror above all of those. So
sure, okay. And if you could have one superpower, what would it be?
Is it lame to ask for omnipotence? Just like
no, I don't think so.
All right, I'll be omnipotent. I'll do that. Wait, the power that lets me have other superpowers.
I don't think that one's legal.
But omnipotence isn't literally the power. Yeah. So if I had to choose like a normal superpower, probably. I mean, to be honest, death's not really appealing to me. So probably Wolverine style immortality / regeneration. Something like that. If I can't be a Doc Manhattan Uber, cosmic entity, then yeah, I'll choose that.
Cool. All right. Well, I want to thank you for coming on. It's a pleasure to have you on and get a chance to chat with you for a little while. Where can people find you at specifically? Of course, we've got a lot of links in the show notes, but if you want to throw it out here.
Let's see here. Oh, well, first thing, check out our Patreon, patreon.com/RPPR. We have bonus podcasts after hours where we look at weird RPGs and talk about other topical things. And right now we're doing Palladium Poisoning, which is a series on Palladium role-playing games. Right now we're specifically covering Rifts, which is a hot mess of escapist power fantasies, ridiculous art, and terrible game mechanics. We also run games for Patreon backers. I post all podcasts have early access podcasts, and an artwork of our games. So please, you can back us for $2 a month and get access to dozens of hours of bonus content. And you can also check out afterhours.roleplayingpublicradio.com to see all of this content. I link it up all there so you can find it easily, because Patreon has terrible indexing and archiving capabilities. But I mean, to be fair, they're doing better than they have been. They're doing their best. .com/RPPR is our website. Actualplay.roleplayingpublicradio.com is our AP site. I'm on Twitter at Ross Payton, And I also started another podcast with Caleb and his friend Spencer called The Mix Six, which is at themix6.com, which is where they review beers and talk about stuff. And I'm producing.
Awesome.
Yeah. So yeah, but especially the Patreon. Just go to the Patreon.
Skip all the other stuff.
Back my Patreon. Back my Patreon.
Buy my book.
Buy my book. Yeah. Just to be a terrible plug monster. So yeah.
No, that's fine. Hey, that's part of the reason why you're here, right? I mean,
Yep.
come in and talk about all the stuff. So that's awesome and expected. So and encouraged.
Yeah, I do like how I built my brand to be like, I'm a horrible monster. Buy my book. I'm just gonna be blatant. I'm not gonna like have any excuse of as objectivity. It's like, yeah, no, give me money. I'm here. And yeah, I like that. That's been my brand, and people have embraced that. So, yeah. Anyway.
You get everything out on the table. There's nothing hidden. It's nobody behind the curtain. That's the way you should do it.
Yeah, there you go. Transparency. So yeah. All right. Well, I'm glad I'm gonna be here. Thanks for listening to Legends of Tabletop.
Absolutely awesome, and I will take advantage of this similar opportunity to plug all of our stuff here as well. You can find this awesome content and all of our other cool stuff at legendsoftabletop.com. If you have any questions, comments, or feedback, you can reach out to us at legendsoftabletop@gmail.com. We're on Twitter at legendstabletop. There's a Tumblr and a Facebook page and Instagram. You can follow us there. I post up my geeky game photos and session pics and all that kind of stuff. So you can reach out to us there. Just put us in Google and you'll find us all over the place. And I guess that's it. You leave us, rate us, leave us a review on iTunes. That would be fantastic. That helps. Or on Stitcher or whatever pod service you happen to use. If you can leave a review or talk about us on other forums and such, that's greatly appreciated. We highly encourage it. You can also leave reviews for RPPR. There's the more the merrier. Get everybody out there. So we want to thank Ross again for coming on and thank everybody for checking everything out. And we'll catch you next time.
Good night, people.